before I moved to Mexico 4 years ago, I heard a lot of things about this country. I had literally never been here before, and most of the people that were telling me these things had also never been here before. So I wanted to address some of these misconceptions and hear what you guys have to say about these things, especially those of you that have been here, that have lived here. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting conversation to have. So let's get started. The number one misconception about Mexico, which I'm sure you can guess on the first try, is that the whole country is like this battlefield of cartels and drug lords and that it's incredibly dangerous. If you've been to Mexico before and you've been to places like Condesa or Roma in Mexico City or Polanco, or if you've been to Puerto Vallarta or Puerto Escondido or Oaxaca, or even Cancun and Tulum, you know that these things are laughable. Because most of the places that you want to visit or live or explore in Mexico City are perfectly safe. They're as safe as any other place in the US, probably safer than many places in the US, safer than many places that I've been to in Asia, safer than a lot of places that I've been to in parts of the UK. So yeah, Mexico City is, of course, has crime, as many large cities do around the world. Similar problems of pickpocketing and muggings, sure, those things happen. In the 4 years that I've lived here, or 3.5 years that I've lived here, never ever have I had any problems. I've never seen anything like that happen. I grew up in New York City, in the suburbs of New York City. Like I think that I'm relatively street smart when it comes to that sort of stuff, keeping my belongings where I can see them. And those things happen to people who are trying to be street smart too. But I'm just saying that the chances of it happening are slim. In other parts of the country, sure, of course, there are parts of the country that you don't want to go to. I can't name them off the top of my head, but I have been to places that people have promised me are dangerous, like Tijuana, anywhere else? Mexico City, and parts of the Yucatan, and again, I've never had a problem. Tijuana is a really cool city. It's full of hipsters and craft beer and like food trucks and stuff, so I never once felt unsafe. And in Mexico City, the same. Again, I take precautions. I don't buy drugs. I don't do drugs. I don't involve myself in any way in those sort of worlds here. So yeah, I don't have any problems. I have a video that I made a couple of years ago now that I'll put up here so that you can check it out. Be sure to read the comments. It's about safety in Mexico City, but I think it addresses in general safety in Mexico. So if that's a concern of yours and you've never been here and everyone is telling you that you're gonna get kidnapped, please read the comments on that video, and that should help you feel a little bit better. The second misconception that really gets under my skin is when people call Mexico a third world country. First of all, that's not even a phrase to use anymore, please. Second of all, the parts of this country that I've been to are thriving. Go to Los Cabos, go to La Paz, go to Ensenada, go to Mexico City in most of the neighborhoods in the central area, go to Oaxaca, go to the beaches of Oaxaca, go to Puerto Escondido, go to Puerto Vallarta or Guadalajara or Monterrey. None of these places are what I picture when I imagine third world. I've traveled to several developing countries in parts of Asia where there is no infrastructure, there are no roads, you can't drink the water, and there's nowhere to buy water. So there's a lot of differences in that, and sure, those places exist in Mexico. Those places exist for sure, but they also exist in the United States. So please, before you say things like that, consider the fact that this is the financial capital of Latin America, that Mexico is a thriving economy, and okay, it's currently stagnant in its growth economically. However, many countries are hitting that in their... I'm not going to get into economics or politics in this video. So yes, please stop saying that. The third misconception that I get all the time, especially from visitors who are coming to Mexico City for the first time, Mexico is just warm all the time. Everywhere in Mexico is hot. This morning when I woke up, it was 53 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 12 degrees Celsius. It was cold. Sometimes at night in January, you can see your breath. Like, it gets cold in these mountains. We are over 2,000 meters up. We're higher up than Denver. We're higher up than most cities in the US that are at altitude. So yeah, it gets cold here in Mexico City. It gets cold in parts of the country that are near to here, like Guanajuato, Puebla, Toluca, Querétaro, like all of these places in the mountain region of the Central Valley of Mexico are not hot. Even when it's super hot in like April and May, it's not as hot as it is in April and May in Mérida or in Puerto Escondido or in Puerto Vallarta or in Cancun. Oof. There's no humidity here. So yeah, when planning your trip here in January, know that it's not beach weather. It's not gonna be shorts weather even. Sure, during the day it could get up to 70 in the wintertime, but it drops to the 50s and it's cold. For me, it feels very cold. The fourth misconception that I get a lot and that I was totally convinced by before I came here was that Mexico is super cheap. Mexico is not one of the cheapest places to live. In North America, for sure, it's the cheapest place in this region of the world to live. If you're comparing it to the US or Canada or the UK or Australia, yeah, for sure. However, if you've done any sort of traveling or if you've lived abroad in other cheaper countries too, like Thailand, or even when I lived in Korea, living in parts of Cambodia or Vietnam, those countries are cheap. Very cheap. Cheap for finding rent, cheap for eating food. You could eat out every single night and it would probably cost you less than if you bought groceries and cooked in your home. That is not the case here in Mexico. For sure, you can save money here and you can live cheaply if you look in the right places. But if you come to Mexico City thinking, I'm a digital nomad and I'm gonna live here and it's gonna be so cheap, you could end up paying $1,000 a month in rent. You could be paying nearly that on groceries every month, sorry. It's not a super affordable place if you wanna have the same luxuries that you have in another city. So that's something to note. Especially rent prices in Mexico City are going up so much. I know that there's still places around the other parts of Mexico that are relatively inexpensive, but it's no longer the like crazy cheap haven that I think many people think of it as. So something to note if you're coming here, and especially if you're going to accept a job here from a Mexican-based company, the wages are very low for the cost of living. So especially balancing those two things can be really difficult. The fifth misconception that Luke added for me, because he says this is something that often a lot of like Brits and Americans come over here thinking, is that wherever you go, people are gonna speak English. That's definitely not the case. When we first moved here, we did not speak really any Spanish. I had some very some very bad high school Spanish that was from years ago. And yeah, we just thought like people would speak English here because traveling around parts of Asia, everybody spoke English. Even in places where there really wasn't a lot of tourism, still loads of people spoke English. So it was kind of like a wake-up call when we got here, especially Mexico City. Sure, if you go to places in Puerto Vallarta or in Cancun or Tulum, a lot of the hospitality staff there speak English. But if you want to get out to the smaller cities and the sort of off the beaten path restaurants and like cool hikes and stuff, you need to speak a little bit of Spanish, or you need to make sure you have really good service so that you can access Google Translate, or you download something so that you can access a dictionary, because you could find yourself in a situation if you don't speak any Spanish where you don't know what's going on. And that's not always the best place to be. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I love this country so much. It's been my home now for almost 4 years, and I love sharing some of these misconceptions with you and making sure that people are aware of what a cool country this is, because you should definitely be visiting it more. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It really supports my channel. Make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss a video, and I will see you next time. Bye.